Let me be very clear that IVF is not a magic science or a magic treatment. The golden years in a woman's life is late 20s and early 30s. That's the best time when you release the best quality eggs.
1 million things need to go right for me to actually bring home a baby.
IVF is basically like gambling because you throw a lot of money, but you get only 50% chances. Either you'll get a baby or you don't get a baby.
So for me, my issue was just emotional. How many times do we have to do this? It was financial. How many times can we afford to do this? But there are so many steps, and with every step, the stakes get higher.
But when it comes to fertility, everybody is shut. Nobody talks about it. Everybody is cocooned to their own space.
These clinics want you to succeed. It's good for them if you succeed, and they do everything they can to help you to succeed. Parenthood is the rest of your life journey, so the sooner you start it, the sooner you get to go on that ride.
We talk about career clocks, body clocks, and even social clocks. But no one tells us what happens when our fertility clocks feels louder than all of them. Today, we're opening up the conversation that too many women discover only when they're in the middle of it: fertility and IVF. Welcome back to the Gayu podcast, a space where we talk about women's wellness, midlife, and well-being beyond the surface. I'm your host, Gayu Lewis, a board-certified integrative nutrition, health and menopause coach, and today we are diving into a topic so many women are unaware of until they face it: fertility, IVF, and the emotional and physical realities behind the journey to parenthood. Joining me today are two incredible guests who bring both science and soul to this conversation. Dr. Parth Das, a fertility specialist at Orchid Fertility Clinic, who's helped countless couples on their path to parenthood. And Cassie Destino, founder of IVF Support UAE, who's turned her own IVF journey into a thriving community that supports women across the region. Today, we are breaking down what really happens in modern fertility, why more women are facing challenges, what IVF really involves, what's fact versus fear, and how to stay emotionally grounded through it all. Whether you're considering IVF, in the middle of it, or just want to understand this part of women's health better, this conversation is for you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Like I said, I am a complete novice when it comes to IVFs or fertility. But when I was doing my research on this for this podcast, there was a lot of women, more and more women, saying that I never thought getting pregnant was that difficult. Why is fertility becoming a challenge now? Is it the stress? Is it our lifestyle, or something else completely?
The world of fertility, as per the World Health Organization, they have classified this as a disease of the reproductive system. So it is not just a state that, oh, I'm just not able to get pregnant. No, if you are not able to get pregnant, then as per the criteria set by the World Health Organization, it is a disease of the reproductive system, which means that one has to see a physician, get checked, get evaluated, and not delay this process. Because we just know 50 to 60% of this science. It is never 100% success that we usually want to, but it is never that. It is a 50 to 60% chance. And one thing we have understood very clearly in this regard is that age matters a lot, both for the men as well as for the women. The younger you are, the much better gametes means egg cells and sperm cells, and also the hormonal milieu in our body. All right, so all these things, they work together to give us a successful outcome. So the earlier you start planning, the much better to your advantage. Now, how you start planning and how you want to proceed, that becomes a one-to-one discussion and talk with your doctor, and then you can plan your way forward.
Okay, but I just want to have a baby. Now, when I start trying, and then when do I realize that I actually have a fertility issue?
Well, I think that for the general consensus is that for women under 35, if you've been trying for a year and you haven't gotten pregnant, then you need to start to do some further investigations. For women over 35, we say 6 months. So if you don't understand why you're not getting pregnant and you're just not getting pregnant, then you start to get a sense after a couple of months that it's time to investigate. Now, sometimes there's a reason that you know why you can't get pregnant. You might know that you've lost a fallopian tube because of an earlier ectopic pregnancy, or you might know that you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which means that you're having cysts on your ovaries and it's keeping you from ovulating regularly. Sometimes you can know these things in advance, and so then you would be prompted to go seek fertility treatment a little sooner than others. But generally speaking, you try for a while, and when you don't find success, then it's time to start doing some further investigations.
To add to this point, it's a very good point which Cassie has mentioned. For me, yes, these are by the book definitions, 1 year or 6 months. If you're less than 30 years of age, 35 years of age, you 1 year of unprotected intercourse, and if you're more than 35 years of age, 6 months. But I think we need to categorize oneself into a situation like, let's go and do a checkup, and that is a well woman checkup or a well couple checkup, just to know the basics, like the way we just do a complete blood count to know whether I'm anemic or not. Likewise, a fertility checkup could be just do a scan, just do a basic anti-Mullerian hormone test, just to know my reserve status. What if I am 29 years and I have just 3 follicles, but I'm following a 1 year definition concept that I should not be going to the doctor until I do 1 year.
Okay.
But what if my egg reserve is low? So I think a well woman checkup or a well couple checkup involves going to the doctor, having a chat, just say that we are planning, take some supplements, folic acids and all these other supplements that one needs to take, do the basic AMH check of the blood test, scan, pelvic scan to check your uterus and the ovaries, and also a basic semen test. With that note, the doctor will say that as of now, everything looks good. You guys can continue planning, take the basic supplements. And after a year or so, if it does not, then you need to escalate, a bit in pieces, more into the whole program of fertility treatment. Yeah.
And, I would move that timeline back even further. So as the mother of a daughter, my daughter's still quite young, but as she gets older, certainly as she becomes a young woman, when she starts having her period, I would encourage her doctor to do this anti-Mullerian test, this AMH test, which is an ovarian reserve test that gives you a sense of how many eggs you've got. And if we can start doing these tests on young women, for the majority of them, you'd say your AMH looks right for your age, continue living your life. But I can't tell you how many women I have supported who have started fertility treatment in their early to mid-30s because somehow they have learned that they had a much diminished ovarian reserve for someone their age and had no idea. And if we can kind of flag some of these cases in young women, in 20, 25-year-old women, they can freeze their eggs at that age. They don't have to go have their babies at 19 if they discover that they have this low ovarian reserve. But they can open up so many more possibilities for themselves by understanding that early. It's just a blood test. It's not difficult. It's not painful. It's an easy thing to do. And then you just put all those options in front of you to freeze those eggs when you're nice and young and your eggs are nice and young.
With this note, I would like to take a little more insight.
Yeah.
This is the platform where we need to talk about it. Today, if you ask, like 8 out of 10 patients that I see in the clinic, they are all in this category of low ovarian reserve. Their AMH is low and they're struggling to get a baby. So I think this needs to be taught in schools. What Cassie told is absolutely correct. It needs to be taught in school. It needs to be in our science biology chapters about the ovarian aging. All right. Every girl in the school should be able to, talk openly about it. That yes, eggs are there. It is important for menstrual functions, reproductive functions. But again, they outsmart us in some way or the other. And why the egg count diminishes, we do not know that. There could be so many other causes, medical causes, but most of the times it is idiopathic. We really don't know about it. So a simple test, discussing about it, knowing about it, and then planning your future based on this AMH and the reserve is the game changer in our fertility practice. Because I think infertility is a very niche subject. It is a very nice, pure subject. But if you really do it nicely, if we are talking about it in the community, see, What happens is when somebody gets diagnosed with breast cancer, how much openly we are talking about it. We are doing screening tests, we are doing campaigns after campaigns, and everybody and people are coming on board onto the stage and discussing about their survivorship. That I had gone through a breast cancer and I have done a treatment and I have healed well. But when it comes to fertility, everybody is shut. Nobody talks about it. Everybody is cocooned to their own space. I think this conversation needs to happen more. And like the Cassie, she is so open out in the community discussing about it. We as scientific people, we are trying to help these people out there in the clinics. But I think, you as, a podcaster, trying to open up this discussion and forum in the community and get this talking, I think that is the game changer in our fertility practice.
You spoke about breast cancer. I would say people speak so much about pregnancy, but the prelude to pregnancy is something that no one is talking about. Doctor, I wanted to ask you, you said, you can't really, there is no specific reason that we know why this AMH levels are falling down. But, fertility, correct me if I'm wrong, but fertility was not a big issue 20 years ago. But recently we're seeing that a lot more younger people are facing fertility issues. Would you say somewhere our lifestyle has caused this?
Absolutely. It is a very brilliant question, but answer, I really don't know how to give that. But yes, I think we are all victims of the environment we stay in right now. I think you must be aware of the microplastics. All right. Now, scientific research and studies have shown a huge lot of microplastics in the milk, in the semen, in the follicular fluid, in the placenta, everywhere, even in the brain. All right. Right now, this is a microplastic that we are speaking on. Everything surrounding us is microplastic. So that is a reform thing that we have to do from the how we formulate legislations and all. But again, 30, 40 years back, these things were not much. All right. People used to have their education and they used to start planning their marriage and their fertility and pregnancy, whatever it is. But right now, everybody wants to go to the best of their best education levels. They want to do the best in their college. They want to do high in their career professional level. So what happens is education career has taken the front seat, but when they want to plan their personal life about marriage and fertility, that takes a back seat. Now, what happens in this bargain is this ovarian reserve, the golden years, specifically, we are talking about women here. So the golden years in a woman's life is late 20s and early 30s. That's when I say golden means that's the best time when you release the best quality eggs. All right. Now, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 40-year-old woman. All these three categories of women in this age group, they will be ovulating at the right time every month. But the ability of a 20 and a 30 to get pregnant so easily is different from a 35 or a 40-year-old. Now, a 40-year-old lady can say that I'm also ovulating like a 30, but why am I not getting pregnant? And that is about the quality, the Q and the G, the quality and the genetics that involves in life-making process. The egg cell starts dividing in a very haphazard fashion. So this is where we scientific people have understood this, and then we have proposed that, okay, doesn't matter. Why don't you then freeze your eggs? Okay, if you want to take your career and professional life and education to the next level, you should also be gifted with your own, fertility and the pregnancy outcome. So why don't you just park your eggs and let it be frozen at a 30 years of age? Because in the freezer, it's going to be 30. You understand? In the body, it will become 35 and 40. Where the quality and genetics will play a very abnormal role. But in the freezer, it will be the same age. So that is the game changer in our fertility practice about egg cryopreservation. But we should not be leaving the man alone, because with age, it has been shown that the man's sperm count also deteriorates very poorly and very badly. We should not go by the norm that, oh, I have a beautiful, absolutely brilliant count and the motility of the sperms. That is the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
What lies beneath is the DNA, which deteriorates with age. So men also should be advised accordingly as we counsel the woman group.
Oh, very, very interesting. Now, what's the right timeline to come when you start talking about freezing eggs? What's the right timeline, and what's the initial test that give you answer? You spoke about AMH as one of the tests, but are there anything else that you can test to get an idea that, yes, this is the right time for me to freeze my eggs?
So that is education. That is information. So if I really know about how I want to see my life moving forward, all right, and if you think in the next 4-5 years, I do not see myself with a partner or making a baby, but now I'm 30 years of age, then that is the time. Give yourself 2 weeks time, go to the clinic, take some injections, harvest your eggs and freeze them. Now, the next question is, okay, you told me, but every cycle I'm going to make a follicle and an egg. So how many eggs do I have to say that, okay, I'm reassured now? So as per the research, 20 to 22 eggs.
Frozen.
Frozen. 20 to 22 eggs, right? Now, 5 figures are not the same. 5 women will not be the same. Some people will give 2 eggs, some people might give 5, some 10, and some might give 30. So the higher the reserve of your egg, like, if you're PCOD, like polycystic ovarian, where you have a lot of follicles, the likelihood of you getting more number of eggs is good. But if you're on the other spectrum, like low AMH, low reserve, like you're making 5 or 6 or 7, and you make 7 or 8 or 9 eggs, then you might plan it in an interval phase. Like you do it in 1 month, give a rest to yourself after 2 or 3 months, you can come back again, harvest another crop of eggs and freeze it in the freezer. So that's how we see the whole process of egg freeze.
Let me ask you something. If a woman goes and tests her egg reserve, a young woman who's thinking about freezing her eggs, she's 32 years old, she has a healthy ovarian reserve for her age, a normal ovarian reserve. Would you recommend she go straight ahead and freeze them, or would you recommend she do some preparation, take some supplements, do some body lifestyle changes to get ready for freezing the eggs, or would you just say, just freeze them?
All right. Can I tell you the honest answer for that?
Sure.
So, of course, we all are healthy, right? Because we eat healthy food, we go for exercise.
We hope we eat healthy
Right?
food.
I mean, of course. So, and I think we are overall good, right? Taking supplements, that supplements will change my quality. No, we haven't proven that as yet. Okay. But it is not bad and it is not wrong to take some supplements. So, of course, when somebody comes to us to talk, that I plan to do this, so immediately we will not start. So we would offer her some supplements, some antioxidants, because we do understand that that helps in cell renewal and the quality of the egg. So yes, a month or 2 or 3, and then we can propose the egg harvesting procedure for them. And the same applies to men also.
Okay. Uh, I wanted to ask this. You'll probably answer a little later to me in my questions. But then, you spoke about me freezing egg. Imagine I'm not seeing someone. I'm almost 30, and I'm not seeing anyone at that moment. And I come and freeze the egg. But then when I actually get married and I plan to have a baby, how difficult have you seen this where the partner has, you're not really making a baby the natural way, whereas it's made in a test tube, right or wrong? How do people perceive this? Have you seen couples where they are comfortable with this idea, or the man is comfortable with this idea?
As an IVF doctor, as an IVF consultant, we are first counselors, right? We speak a lot, we talk a lot, and we discuss a lot with our couples and patients. Just because you froze these eggs doesn't mean you have to come back to it.
Okay.
All right. So you froze these eggs in your heydays when you were young, and it is in the freezer. That should be used as a last bait.
It's like an insurance policy.
Okay.
It's like an insurance policy. Once you get your partner, once you get married, you will try naturally on your own. Suppose you encounter, issues that you are not able to get pregnant. Then the discussion might come that can I do my IVF with the eggs that I have currently with me, like you do fresh egg harvesting, or can you use that frozen eggs? So maybe we do discuss this a lot in the clinic. Many people would like to do fresh because they are very confident about that frozen eggs in the freezer. So that we use it as a last bait. Okay, in case the present scenario doesn't lead to, like, we have abnormal embryos or the qualities are not good, then let's say that, okay, let's take out those young eggs now and let's see if you're lucky enough. The next question, to answer your next question, is do the couple, if they have a partner, does he know about these eggs? I think that's a very personal space which the couple has to decide. And most of the ladies, when they do it, they're very open about it. That I already had done my egg freezing, a few years back, and most of these couple are absolutely brilliant about it, and they respect each other for that.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for telling me this whole thing. I like it.
Yeah, I also think that going forward, it's going to seem like a less exotic thing. I think that if I were to tell you I froze my eggs 5 years ago, we weren't really talking about fertility preservation 5 years ago in the way that we are now. And the idea of having frozen eggs doesn't seem sort of presumptuous in the way that it might have used to seem. And I think that, 5 years from now, to say I froze my eggs 5 years ago is going to be a much, much more common thing. It's not going to seem so strange and so, so extreme. I think it's going to be a much more normal part of women's healthcare.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot more women are actually focusing on their career and then looking at a family a later stage. I think this is an amazing opportunity that they have with themselves, right? The power in their hands.
And we're talking about it more in the media. We're having this conversation today. You have people like Jennifer Aniston who said, I wish someone had told me to freeze my eggs when I was in my 20s. And when someone like that puts a spotlight on an issue like this, it really signal boosts it to everyone, and it starts getting written about in magazines and on social media and on blogs, and it becomes less of an odd fringe thing to do, and it's becoming a much more talked about part of women's healthcare, and it's going to serve women really, really well as we continue to have this conversation.
Most of the ladies where we do the egg freezing, and I see a commonality in the way they answer these questions at the end of the whole procedure. They said, the doctor, I never knew that it was so easy.
Yeah. I wish I did this years
I
ago.
thought it was one hell of a thing, where my hormones are going to go overboard and I'm going to be absolutely in bed and this and this is just like a blink of an eye. And I would like to come back again. And they come back again for the second time and the third time for these ladies who are making less eggs because they say that the experience was so good. Means nowadays the way we do the stimulation is so light and good to the body that people hardly encounter any kind of hormonal changes. 12, 13 days of injection shots, 4 or 5 scans in between, and a good anesthesia, and 30 minutes of procedure. And in 2-3 hours time after a coffee from Orchid Clinic, Orchid Clinic, they go back home. So that's how it is. Absolutely a clean sweep. It's very good, actually.
Can you speak a little bit more detail now that I want to know what does that procedure look like for someone who's listening and doesn't have a clue?
As Cassie had mentioned before, like when somebody comes to us for a discussion about what do I do and can I do an egg freezing, so that discussion rolls out to, okay, you have to take some supplements and boosting up your health and good life activities. If you've got any habits of alcohol and smoking, it probably would be advised just to hold on for some time. So after 2 to 3 months, she comes and sees us on cycle day, period day, menstrual period days 2. We do a scan again. We do day 2 hormones. All right. And if everything is fine, when I say fine means there is no cysts and hormones are all good, we start the injections. Okay. All right. So injections are based on the BMI and the body weight and the age criteria and based on the AMH levels and all. So this injection starts. These are simple injections to be taken on the skin of the tummy. And the way they get scared, oh my God, injections. But immediately what I counsel them is, just like our parents and grandparents, they take the insulin shot for diabetes. Yeah. If they can do it, why can't we? So that immediately neutralizes that whole fear and the phobia of injections. So they do these injections for 12 to 13 days. And they are called every 3rd, 4th day for scans and blood tests and evaluations. After 12, 13 days, when the follicles attains their good size, then we do the procedure. This is called egg harvesting procedure, where we remove puncture the follicles, and that is done through a short general anesthesia, where you will be sleeping and you will have no pain. All right. The anesthesia is short. The whole procedure lasts for 30 minutes, and after that, 2 hours of stay in the clinic, and then you are back home. So that's it. And some medications, if you have any pains or discomfort, you can take some analgesics. So that is all about the egg freezing. So once we get the eggs, our embryologist in the lab, they will see how many of them are viable. Viable means how many of them are matured. Matured means they have the ability to receive a sperm in the future. So as they say, egg freezing is IVF without the F part. So no fertilization. So we see the number of eggs, and the number of eggs we have matured goes into the freezer. Okay. And then based on that count, we can counsel our patient that you have this much number of eggs. If you so desire, it's no rush. If you so desire, you can always come back after a month or 2 or 3 or whenever you are free, continue your supplements, and then we take another crop of eggs and keep it in the freezer. Okay. That's it. And the rest is all good. And of course, try to finish your personal things as soon as possible. Don't delay it. Just because I have some 15, 20 eggs in the freezer, so that's it. I do not have to do anything now. At 40, 45 years, if I get a partner, I will do that. No, because we are trying to achieve a pregnancy. So the take home message should be that the faster you complete this baby making process, much better to your advantage.
Okay. Because as a woman, there's a lot of hormonal change that anyways happens as we grow older.
Right.
I'm a menopause coach, and I think I speak a lot about the hormonal chaos anyways that happens when you hit your late 30s to early 40s.
And being pregnant is difficult, and being a new parent is difficult, and having a 10-year-old is difficult, and the younger we are for all of those things.
Yeah. It's easier for us to run behind them. Yeah, chasing them is easier than when you're in your 40s and 50s. I mean, from a physical perspective. Coming to the F part in the IVF, talk us through that process. How does that look like?
All right. So maybe I would start with the whole process of a couple who wants to do the IVF part. So the first phase is the same for everybody, right? Once we remove the eggs, which I have told and narrated. So once we have removed the eggs, so they will not be frozen. All right. So herein as the lady is, we are doing the procedure in the operation room, removing her eggs, her husband is collecting the sperms. All right. So the sperms are taken, and that is also, washed and processed. And then for every matured egg, a viable egg that we have, we put the sperm inside the egg. And that process is called ICSI, ICSI, which stands for intracytoplasmic sperm injection. All right. And then we keep them in the time-lapse incubator for monitoring. Now, let me be very clear that IVF is not a magic science or a magic treatment. All right. IVF is assisting nature. All right. So what we do is we culture and we keep on monitoring these embryos till 5 days. So we can culture our human life in the lab for first 5 days of our life.
By
embryo
mimicking what it would be experiencing in the women's
utero,
body. It's the right temperature. It's the medium is as similar as it can be.
Yeah. So nowadays we have the time lapse where we do not expose the embryos. So they are all within that equipment where they have the right, the culture conditions, to encourage the growth of the embryo. So we culture the embryos to day 5, means 5 days of life, which is called a blastocyst stage. Now, at this point in time, we will decide whether we want to do the genetic screening, like chromosome screening of the embryos to know whether they are chromosomally normal or abnormal. So if the couple has decided to do the testing, the genetic testing of the embryos, so then we do the biopsy of these embryos, and then we freeze the embryos, and the cells are then sent to the genetic lab for a comprehensive 24 chromosome screening. And if the report comes as normal, means it is having an equal set of chromosomes, then at a later date, maybe after a month or 2, the couple comes back again, and then we prepare a womb, and then we replace one embryo at a time. And with this program, we have achieved at least 65 to 75% chances of positive implantation and a live birth rate.
Okay. Again, you said before this testing is done, you said you freeze the embryos.
Yes.
All of them, which is there.
Yes.
And depending whether the couple want to have a baby, they come back to you.
Yes. So again, we take an offshoot here. Now, suppose the couple says, the doctor, you have made my embryos, but I am not interested to be pregnant in the next 3 years. No problem.
Okay.
No problem. This is called, like the way we have frozen your eggs, this is called embryo banking. So we freeze your embryos.
Okay.
Your embryos, your babies, the cell babies. All right. So once the couple is ready to start a family, she comes back again, and then after preparing her womb, we put this embryo back into the uterus.
Okay. And you say you put only one at a time?
Yes, because we have done so this is where the earlier days IVF, which I was a part of it, and now the recent IVF, which I'm also a part of it, that's the difference. Once upon a time, we did not have this science and technology into our foray. Like, we used to do IVF, and because we didn't know which embryo was good and which embryo was no good. So to increase your chances of pregnancy, we used to replace 2-3 embryos at a time. Okay. All right. So now, because we have done the genetic testing of the embryos, we know that this embryo is absolutely brilliant and chromosomally competent enough to implant. And it gives us a success rate of almost 60 to 70%. So that is why we have always followed a strict policy of transferring one embryo at a time to achieve one baby.
Okay.
And not And that is why the chances of multiple pregnancies have gone down in the community. With multiple pregnancies, the complications that comes with it, the miscarriages, and all these other things. So yes.
Another point is that if you have collected several embryos, that gives you a chance to have more than one child. You come back in 3 years and you transfer another one of those embryos, the same batch. You don't have to go through the entire IVF process again if you have another embryo frozen after your first transfer. So you hear of a lot of families who have 2 or 3 children, but they're all from the same batch of that original IVF, which is an extraordinary thing because those embryos are also frozen in time. They are as young as those eggs were when they were collected, and they are not aging in the freezer. So even though you end up giving birth to them over the course of several years, they're all kind of the same age.
Yeah.
Probably
which is amazing.
Yeah, but I said probably when the sibling, they're like, we both were conceived at the same time, darling. But I just.
That's true. So basically, to take the age factor, so suppose somebody has done at 34 years of age, right? And she got her first baby at 34 and a half, all right? And she has 3 more embryos in the freezer. And she doesn't want to, she wants to make a good gap. So she comes back at 38, 39 years of age. But she will use a 34-year-old embryo. You understand? So that is the advantage of, improving your success. So at 39, she's not stressed that, what's going to happen? I'm aging. My eggs are not good. No, it's all good because you made this plan at a young age. So the golden embryos are there and it can give you 60 to 70% chances of success.
Okay. I have to ask this question now. Imagine a lady is 40 plus, but then there's, of course, the embryo is a younger embryo, but she's still aging. Does that affect the overall pregnancy?
All right. So she is 40 plus.
Yeah.
And she had frozen embryos at a young age.
Yes.
Okay. So the question is,
like as a human, like the embryo could still be young, but she is still elderly.
So by default, at 40, if she comes at 40 plus years and she says that I want to transfer, by default of age, she becomes a high risk pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because we have to categorize our pregnancy, right? Which is high risk and which is low risk. So by age criteria, she becomes a high risk. But the embryo is young. So that means her ability to implant and get pregnant, very good. Her miscarriage rate would be very, very low because this is a very young embryo.
Okay.
All right. And the chances of continuation of a pregnancy to term would be much, much better. But what is my likelihood of getting diabetes and hypertension? That probably would be age dependent.
Okay.
You understand? So medically, she is vulnerable, but embryologically, she is safe. You understand? So we always advise that if you have young embryos out there, just as I said before, complete this baby making process and get it out of your way. Don't drag it forever because the more you drag, the more complications and negativity would come in.
Okay. Casey, I wanted to ask you this question. When you were in the middle of IVF, what were the moments no one prepared you for? You could write a book on that?
Ooh, goodness. Well, so I did 3 IVFs, and my first one I did in San Francisco in California before we moved here. And then the next 2 I did in Abu Dhabi. And those were very different cycles. My San Francisco cycle was very different from my UAE cycle. I was very much more informed in my first cycle, but I knew it already for my second cycle. So I think that having that information, knowing what to expect, made all the difference for me. And I can see in the women that I support that sometimes they have these first appointments with their doctors and they come out and they say, I don't really understand what's about to happen. I know that they're going to stimulate me and then they're going to take my eggs, but I don't, how does that work? What's it going to feel like? Is it going to hurt? Am I going to get cranky? What's the next step? How often am I coming in? Not having, I think because I felt quite informed, it made it much easier for me. So that's a huge thing that I try to advocate, that women get as much information as possible. I think that the emotional part of it for me was the hardest to handle. Now, I was quite lucky in that I will always remember that my first IVF doctor told me that I was averagely infertile. And so there was nothing. I had PCOS, I had polycystic ovaries, which meant I actually had quite a high AMH. I don't think I understood any of this back then, but I had lots of eggs. I was 37 when I started, and he said, just do IVF. and you might have to do it a couple of times, but it's going to work. Just keep doing it. And he was right. I did have to do it 3 times, but I didn't have any major curveballs thrown at me. I didn't have anything wrong anatomically. I didn't have issues with my husband's sperm. I just had to keep trying it a couple of times. So for me, my issue was just emotional. How many times do we have to do this? It was financial. How many times can we afford to do this? But I have supported women who have much more intense diagnoses where it's just not anywhere near as clear that they can continue. If they keep continuing, they will do it. And I think just factoring in the emotional part of that isn't something that every doctor will discuss with you in your appointment. And just having that understanding of how much it might take over your life for the period of time that you're going through it, how much you're going to be thinking about it, how much you're going to be scrutinizing every twinge and every pain and every headache and every, does this mean that it's worked? Does this mean it's not working? What's happening? If you're that way inclined, if you're a slightly anxious person, it can become a wholly encompassing experience to go through. And, I always recommend that women try to be on the same page as their husbands and they completely are communicating. My husband and I did something that I didn't realize how helpful it was at the time. We had decided from the very beginning, we do 3 IVFs without discussion. We do 1. If it doesn't work, we do 2. It doesn't work, we do 3. If that one doesn't work, then we have to have a conversation. Why isn't it working? What's going on? Can we afford to do another one? But it just meant that every time I knew, all right, I've got 2 more chances after this. All right, I've got 1 more chance after this. And it was our 3rd IVF that gave us we did have twins. So for me, knowing we agree, my husband and I agree, we know what the next step is going to be if this doesn't work, helped me tremendously. Because for me, IVF was as emotional as it was physical and financial. And, it just touches every part of your life for a period of time. And I think having that understanding, I don't know how much I thought that was going to be the case. I think I thought, and it's hard to remember now because it's been many years, but I think I thought, well, I'll just have an IVF and then I'll have a baby. And that's that. And then once you get into it, you realize, oh my gosh, 1 million things need to go right for me to actually bring home a baby. And there are so many steps. And with every step, the stakes get higher. So, you've got the follicles. Now we have to see if they're mature. Okay, they've matured. Now we have to see if they fertilize. Okay, they fertilize. Now we have to see, if what the genetic testing is. Okay, the testing is good. Now we have to see if they implant. Okay, it's implanted. Now we have to see what my blood test result is. Okay, my blood test result is good. Now we have to see if there's a heartbeat, and then a heartbeat, and then a heartbeat, and again, and again, and again, and match, and then the babies are born, and then it never ends. And I think that there is this tendency for women to think that the next goalpost is the last one.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong journey once you start down this road. And I don't think I had my head around that in the beginning.
You spoke about finance multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Talk me through that. I believe my brand's called the F Coach. I believe in all the F words which are important, and finance is a big part of it. And I know that you work very closely as part of your IVF, community to help people fund the whole, not fund and at least help them plan the financial element. Talk us a little bit more on that.
I think that this is not an inexpensive thing to do. And, people, I think that's another reason that we are seeing older people starting this process, because they can't afford it, or they're saving up for it, or they're waiting until they're at a point in their career where they can afford it. I hope more and more companies will offer fertility coverage as part of their insurance policies going forward. But financially, it has a huge impact. And there are clinics that will work with you. There are, we took out a bank loan to do ours. And, we used to joke until the kids were like 18 months old that like technically the bank still owns you. So you better stop crying because I'm going to return you. And, it is a huge part of it. And especially if you're looking at doing a multiple rounds of it, for many women, I mean, for plenty of women, it works the first time and that's all they have to ever think about. For many women, it takes more than one round to achieve success. And if you want to have more than one child, you're looking at something that is quite costly. And that's another reason that, we talk about getting on the same page as your partner. What are our financial goals? What do we want to allocate towards this process? How much can we afford to do it? People make decisions about where they go for their care based on how much it costs. Certainly there are women in our community for whom they can afford to do this as often as they want, and that's not an issue for them. But it is a huge part of the sort of social parity of fertility care that not everyone can afford it. And that really breaks my heart when I talk to women who I think have a really excellent chance of becoming parents with IVF, but they can't afford it. And, you have to decide how much are you willing to go into debt for this, and then of course, like, I was saying before, once you have these children,
Bringing up them also
they're
has
expensive. Babies are expensive.
Yeah.
Children are expensive. Dubai is expensive. The UAE is expensive. School and cars and, all the things that you have to pay for. So I do think that it is a barrier for a lot of people.
Okay. Just a ballpark. If you can give a number, what does it generally take?
To have an IVF?
Yeah.
Oh, it varies pretty dramatically depending on what other procedures you may need to have and medications you may need to have and testing you may need to have. It's usually in the tens of thousands of dirham.
And also to add to this thing, I really appreciate what Cassie has told, that thing which you told that we will do 3 IVFs and we will not talk about it. That's the most brilliant approach, and it shows the maturity of a couple. Means that you have understood the science behind baby making process. Means that you are not taking things for granted. You are just going with the flow. And after 3 cycles, if it is not, we need to reboot, we need to readdress this whole thing and see where exactly, or we have a plan B in place, So this is, with this approach, what happens? The cortisol levels in our body goes down. Cortisol and all these things are inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of all evil. Where there is inflammation, implantation will not happen or miscarriages can happen. And most of the couples are in that stress mode. They are in that fight or flight response. They should just have a chat between themselves that this is what it is. I know that, and I should not be using the right word. IVF is basically like gambling. Very, 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 very bad word, but what do? Because you throw a lot of money, but you get only 50% chances whether either you'll get a baby or you don't get a baby. All right. So that means that I have to have a very good conversation with my partner that we are into it together, pluses and minuses, because it is not your fault. It is not my fault. It is our process. It is our problem, and we need to deal with it together. All right. So whatever the outcomes, we accept it. It is a negative. Okay, we accept it. If it's positive, we celebrate it. And after a few cycles, we will again have a readdressal with our primary physician and of how to take things forward. So I think simple words, but it means a lot. It really means a lot.
I'd like to comment on something that I see in the community a lot too, and that is this concept that IVF clinics are just trying to make money. They don't care if you get pregnant. They just want you to come back over and over again. There is some school of thought that they try to keep you from getting pregnant so that you'll have to come back. And I have been speaking with clinics in the UAE now for almost 10 years. And I can absolutely say that these clinics want you to succeed. It's good for them if you succeed, and they do everything they can to help you to succeed. And this idea, of course, they aren't charities. They have to charge you for the incredibly high level of expertise that they have, not only from doctors like Partha, but the entire staff, the nurses. I mean, these are incredibly highly skilled people who, have to be paid for
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
And, there are medications that have a cost. There are, this unfortunately is not an inexpensive thing to do. But I don't believe that clinics try to find ways to cheat you out of money because they want to make more money and they don't actually care if you get pregnant. I have never met an IVF doctor in this country who doesn't truly want their patients to succeed. And I always say, I run the group IVF Support UAE, and I always say, I hope you can forget about me as soon as possible. I want to be the smallest blip in your life. I want you to achieve this thing and move on and be so busy with your baby that you forget my name and that you ever even knew me. And I think a lot of the doctors feel that way as well. They don't want to have a years-long relationship with their patients. They want them to come in, they want to treat them, they want to give them their families, and maybe they want you to come back in a couple of years and give a little sibling. But you want your patients to be successful, and it is in the best interest for everyone, clinics included, to give you your success.
I think this is one thing I would like to boast about, of course, with a good pregnancy outcomes. Patient experience and rich patient experience is the key. And we had gotten, European Fertility Society awards for the best patient experience award amongst the globe.
Fantastic.
So these are the few things which we want to share, and we want to tell our people that this baby making process, we do understand there are a lot of challenges out there in the community. Everybody has a personal story in their family going on. This also needs to be spoken about. Sometimes they cannot speak to doctors or the clinics, and that is where a community like Cassie's group comes in, where they can have a neutral talk, a very unbiased talk about what it means to be on the other side, and how hand holding can really help another person out there in the community. Yeah.
True. Doctor, there are a couple of things that I wanted to ask. You spoke about, sometimes you can't afford UAE to do the procedure. Can these eggs or embryos be transported to another place?
Yes, that is a very simple process. We have a lot of ladies who has done egg freezing, or they have done the embryo freezing when they were here in UAE, and now they have relocated to another country. So when they request us that I've moved off to London, or I'm in Australia, or in any part of the world, can I take or ship my eggs and embryos? Yes, you can. And that means that we have to send a letter to the Ministry of Health seeking their permission. Once we have an approval from them, which takes around 24 to 36 hours, then we initiate the process. A third party comes in where they take the shipment from our clinic to the clinic in another country. So yes, it is absolutely possible.
Okay. Another question. You spoke about couples going through the cycles, even like you went through it 3 times. What's the break that you need to take from the first time if it doesn't work out to then start the second time? Is there a specific time that you would say take?
So IVF nowadays, most of the IVF treatment that we are doing is out of the books. Like what we read in the books, no, it is based on a lot of advancements. Nowadays, we are doing back to back, means a dual stimulation program where we do the stimulation for 14 days, do the egg harvesting process, and after a 1 day gap, we restart the whole process and re-inject the patient for another 2 weeks. So we do another egg retrieval. So in one cycle, in 30 days, we are doing 2 times egg retrieval. These are for poor responders, ladies who do not have much eggs. For somebody who has optimum number of follicles and eggs, and they want to redo one more time, I would always give a minimum of 1 month break, or maybe 2, just to reboot, get back to their original hormones and the way they look things. And of course, you will be getting a little more extra supplements, for a month or 2. So yes, minimum of 1 month, back to back can be done, or dual stimulation, which is immediately after one round of stimulation. So all these things are in place.
Okay, that's the egg freezing. What about the IVF? Once the embryo is implanted, and if imagine there is no baby, what's the process? If there's a miscarriage, how long do you take a break to actually initiate the second phase?
I would divide this question into two parts. First is, I have 3 embryos in the freezer. I put embryo number 1. She didn't get pregnant. So when can I do my next transfer? If everything is perfect, everything has been tested, then there is no time to waste. We can immediately do the next cycle if they are fine to
Yeah.
wait, or after a month or two, no problems. We can do it immediately. If she has had a miscarriage, then of course we need to give her time, at least a month or two, before she again gets ready. But again, before I want to put the next embryo, I would like to know why she miscarried, and do all those things which has not been done before, and that might take me 2 to 3 months. So we are talking about a month or 2 or 3.
And you've got the whole community side, and I'm sure that you have women who come because they're all from different races, right? How do you see them coming together, talking about their experience, really probably the struggles that they're going through, or probably the emotion that they want to share, whether it's happiness as well.
It's interesting to kind of shepherd this community, because a great deal of it is women who are joining at the beginning of their journey with infertility. They have just found out that they need to pursue fertility treatment. So a lot of the discussion is the same. A lot of it is, where do I start? Where do I go? What do I do? I just found out. I have no one to talk to. We try to be a community for women to find each other. As we were saying earlier, there is still some stigma around infertility. We don't talk about it the way we talk about something like breast cancer. There is this idea that not being able to spontaneously conceive a child is some sort of moral failing. And so these women come together to find other women who say, that's not my situation. And no, it's not mine. It's not mine. It's not mine. It's not mine. And everyone kind of finds each other here to share that burden of it, to have someone who also can really understand what they're going through. So the conversation is always so supportive and so really uplifting. These are women going through something quite difficult, but they lift each other up and they hold each other up and they support each other and they say, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? I read this article. I'm going to share it with you. I heard this podcast. I'm going to put the link here. And it's just this really beautiful community of these women. I keep the group women only, just finding each other and holding each other and supporting each other. And I don't have to do much. It runs itself. I mean, there are some laws. Unfortunately, people end up with extra medicines at the end of their cycle and they want to give them away because they're expensive, and I don't want anyone else to have to pay for it if I have it. But we can't allow that. There are strict laws about that. So I have to oversee those sorts of things. But really, a lot of the time I just sit back and watch these women connecting with each other. I answer questions where I can. A lot of people are looking for doctors and looking for clinics, and there's, a really robust discussion about where to go and what complementary things they can be doing. And do we think acupuncture is helpful? Who's had a good experience with that? There's a lot of, I am this age, my AMH number is this, I had this many follicles. Who else has had this exact same situation and what was your outcome? There's a lot of that as well. But it's really, it's an extraordinary thing to witness.
True. Doctor, I wanted to ask you one thing. I recently did a podcast with an oncologist, and she mentioned something very specific during that podcast, that like whenever any lady comes to her who's been diagnosed with cancer, she's like, I always send them to a fertility doctor. She's like, I'm surprised there are a lot of doctors who do not do that, and a lot of women are not given that advice that please go visit a fertility doctor, freeze your eggs because of chemotherapy. Not your whole system could go for a toss. Do you see patients coming to you?
Thanks to the oncology friend, the doctor, who has, this approach. Nowadays in the oncology clinics, the first discussion is about, and specifically if the patient is in the reproductive age group and young age group, the first talk before any chemotherapy or radiotherapy is, what is your plan for your future fertility? All right. Even if the plan is negative, it should be in the positive. We should guide them in the positive, because this is important for everybody. If you're human beings, this will be needed in the future, which means that preserving your sperms if you're a man, or eggs if you're a woman. All right. This has to be opened up. The discussion has to open up, and they should be referred to a fertility center, saying that this is a patient who has been diagnosed with whatever cancer, and we would be planning to start the cancer or the chemotherapy, advice and the protocols for starting a egg freezing or a sperm freezing for the same.
One myth busting about IVF that you want to break today.
That it's a guarantee that, as long as you do what the doctor says and you follow the rules, then you'll absolutely for sure have a baby. I hear that a lot. But another one I want to do too. The other one is that it's very difficult. That IVF is very difficult. That it's painful, that you feel crazy, that you scream at your husband and you feel awful afterwards. For lots of women, it's not difficult at all. It's a thing you have to do. It's a process. It's a procedure. And, with a good doctor who's managing your expectations and managing your care and making sure you're not overstimulated, it's not difficult. It's a very manageable thing to do.
Okay. One lifestyle habit that will surely make a difference.
Exercise, low BMI.
I think people don't drink enough water. I think I would really like to see people drinking more water when they're going through this process.
One thing you will always tell a couple visiting your clinic for the first time.
Be happy.
Stay positive as well.
Stay positive.
And, I talk to people going to his clinic for the first time all the time. And the thing that I always say to them is that you're in very good hands.
Fantastic. This kind of brings me to the last segment of my podcast. It's called the 1%. 99% of my podcast is all about women, but men are a part of our lives too. So we've dedicated 1% to them. What is your advice to the men in our lives? What can men do better to support women?
Listen to them and understand that for women specifically, I'm going to talk about IVF, that when women are going through IVF, for the most part, they are thinking about it more than the men are. It's a process that's happening inside of their body, and it's a very all-encompassing experience, and men need to understand that and respect it. They don't have to go to every single appointment if that's not the arrangement that you've made, but they have to know the thing you are going through is very likely a bigger deal to you than it is to me, and I have to acknowledge that and respect that.
I would like to answer this question with a life experience that I had recently. A couple who had been struggling with infertility for a long time in different clinics of Dubai. Poor quality, bad quality, poor quality, bad quality embryos and all. So she did one cycle of IVF and we managed to get one nice normal embryo. So it was a success. All right? It was a success. Though she didn't get pregnant, but we were celebrating. I was also happy that I managed to get her a good embryo, and she was happy that at the end of the day, I got a good embryo. So when they came back to me for a second, talk, counseling session, so the talk was, okay, I'm 41, 42, and I already got this embryo with such difficulty. It's time to gather more. So can I have one more round of IVF, which is the next best logic. So we were thinking about and we were talking about it, and then there was a pause, all the three of us, me here and the couple in front. And then the wife looked at her husband and she asked, what do you think we should do? And he just told one sentence: my love, whatever your heart says you do it, I will support you in every possible way. And I was just looking at him. I was like, this is called a man's support. Man's role is only two. One day he has to give ejaculate, that's it. And the rest of the days he has to just be there, not knowing what to do. So I usually tell them, and you ask me this question, Doc, what do? I mean, I have no role here. I said, just be with her. Just sit next to her.
Fantastic. Any parting advice to our listeners?
I would say that you can trust your gut with a lot of this. If you feel like you might struggle to get pregnant, if you just sort of know it somehow, start your investigations. Look into it now. Don't wait. And if you want to have a child and anything is getting in your way, don't wait. Get on with it. And, take advice, do the diet, lifestyle modifications, all you want, but just get on with it. Because, parenthood is the rest of your life journey. So the sooner you start it, the sooner you get to go on that ride.
The earlier, the better. I agree completely with her. The earlier you do things, the much better. The more you delay things, more challenges might come in front. So we do not want, knowing very well the science now, it's all out in the open. There is nothing to hide. It's there. We can't change the ovaries and sperms and embryos, right? So we have to work around. And science has taught us one good thing, the much better. So understand that golden years of your life and work accordingly.
Okay. Brilliant. And where can our listeners connect with you?
You can find me at IVF Support UAE. It is a very active Facebook group, which is women only. And there is an Instagram and IVFSupportUAE.com for lots of information about clinics and other events.
I'm Dr. Parth, I'm Medical Director for Orchid Fertility Clinic, Dubai Healthcare City. Very strategic location. One of the tertiary care IVF centers in Dubai. So, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. Now I probably know 1%, of IVF from the whole big world that is there. Probably I know 1%. But thank you so much for educating me today. I have to say that.
Pleasure. Thank you
you.
so much.
What I hope you take away from today's episode is that fertility isn't just a biological story. It's a story of possibilities. With the right information, support, and mindset, there are more options than ever for women and couples to create the family they dream of. A huge thanks to Dr. Parth and Cassie for sharing their wisdom and their heart. And to every woman listening, remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand your body, the more confident and connected you become to it. If this episode inspired you or gave you something to think about, share it forward and help more women discover what's possible. Until next time, menopause, why pause? Let's play.